This is higher homework, it's the Unit 2 extension work. What we're going to look at here is we're going to look at the trig questions, and that's questions 3, 4, 5 and 6. And when I go ahead and do these, what I'll be doing is I'll be looking at the formula sheet that you'll be given, either in your exam or in any of the assessments that you'll be doing. And the formula that I'm going to be using will be one of these ones that will be down at the bottom here. So always remember when you see this type of question to check the formula sheet to make sure that you choose the correct formula to work with for the type of question that we're doing. Right, so let's see what we have here. So we're going to be looking at question 3 first of all. So if A is an acute angle such that tan A equals 1 over 3, find the exact values of sine 2A. Okay, so the main extension type of work that we're going to be doing will always be the part C that we're doing in the 4 questions that we're looking at just now. The others are just the normal type of work that you'd be expected to be able to do with this type of trig equation work here. Right, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw down a triangle based on tan A equaling 1 over 3. So I'll just do a wee triangle down the bottom here, just do it freehand. So there we go, there's our triangle, wee right angled triangle. A is the angle, so I'm going to say that my angle's there. And for tan is opposite over adjacent, so it's 1 over 3, so that's 1 and a 3 there. Okay, so that's me get 2 values down from the triangle, and all I can do there is just do a bit of Pythagoras work to try and find out what the size of this side here would be. So what I'd be looking at doing here would be taking the square root of 3 squared plus 1 squared. Remember, it's the longest side that I'm looking for, so with Pythagoras I'll be adding the squares together and taking the square root of it. So that'll give me 9, 9 plus 1 will give me 10, so that'll be the square root of 10 will be the length of that side there. And what I'll be doing is I'll be using that in the questions that I'm doing. So from that I know that tan A is equal to 1 over 3. From there I could see that sine A is going to be equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, which will be 1 over root 10, and I know that the cosine of A is going to be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is going to be 3 over root 10. And I'm going to use these values when I expand these items out here, just using the formula sheet, remember. Right, so sine 2A. So I know that sine 2A is going to be equal to 2 sine A cos A. And then all I'll be doing is using the values that I worked out down below. So 2 times sine A, which is 1 over root 10. Cos A is 3 over root 10. What I'll do is I'll just multiply these straight across the way. So 2 times 1 times 3 is going to give me 6 on the top. And root 10 times root 10 is going to give me 10. So all I'll do is I'll just simplify that down by dividing top and bottom by 2. That'll give me 3 over 5. Right, so that's that part complete there. For part B, what I could do is I could use a variety of equations there. I could use 3 equations, but the one I'm going to choose will be 1 minus 2 sine squared A. Okay, I've already got sine squared sine A here, so all I'll do is I'll be squaring that. So it'll be 1 minus 2 times, and sine is 1 over root 10, and I'm going to be squaring that there. Right, so what I've got is 1 minus 2 times, when I square that out, square the top, square the bottom, that'll give me 1 over 10, multiply it out by the 2, so it'll be 1 minus 2 over 10, which should give me 1 minus, and that's going to be 1 over 5, so that'll give me 4 over 5 as my answer there, just the simplified cosine 2A. Right, so we're now on to the extension part of the work that we're doing here, and what I need to recognise there is that I should know that from maybe standard grade or intermediate 2 or my national 5 work that tan A is equal to sine A over cos A. But I've got tan 2A, so what I've got is tan 2A is going to be equal to sine 2A over cos 2A. Okay, so that's one thing that I need to remember. And what I'll do from that there is I'll take the fractions that I've worked out already. I've worked out sine 2A and cos 2A. So what I'll do with these is I'll place them on the top, 3 over 5, and that'll be all divided by 4 over 5. Okay. Just to make this a bit simpler, what I'll do is I'll just write down what I'm seeing here. I've got 3/5 divided by 4/5. So writing it out straight would be 3/5 divided by 4/5. And what you'll know is that when we do this type of work, when we're dividing fractions, we flip and change the last fraction to try to change that into multiplying. So what we'll do is we'll flip that fraction over, be 5 over 4, change it to a multiply, and what that will do is I can cancel that off there, that off there. That should give me an answer of 3 over 4. And what I've done is I've just shown that tan 2a is equal to 3 over 4. Okay, let's see how we're going to mark this one. I think we're going to get 6 marks in total for this. What I'll do is I'll give 1 mark for this line here. So it'll be 1 mark for substituting that into the equation that we're already given in the formula sheet. And another mark for simplifying that equation down. Okay, must be simplified. For part B, 1 mark here for substituting in. And finally, 1 mark for getting the simplified answer out there. And what we'll go for is we'll go for 2 marks for this part of the question, 1 mark for substituting that value in divided by that value. So if I either see the fractions there or I see this part here, then I'd give a mark for that. And finally, a mark for working the fraction out as 3/4. So this will be out of 6 marks. Let's move on to question 4. So what you can do is you can freeze the video and you can try this yourself if you've not already done it. So let's go about it in the same way as we did with question 3 there. Right, so first thing I'm going to do is I've got to add A as an acute angle such that sin A this time is equal to 1 over root 5, and we have to find the exact value of these two, and I've got a bit of extension work to do here. So down the bottom, what I'll do is I'll just draw down a small right angle triangle, and I know that sin A, sin is going to be opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be a root 5 on the top there. So if I'm going to work out this side, the bit of Pythagoras that I'm going to do is I'm going to start with root 5 squared, and I'm going to subtract 1 away from that squared. Okay, so what I should work out with here is that will work out to be 5, 5 take away 1, 5 take away 1 will be 4, so that will be root 4, which should work out to be a value of 2 for that side that's there. Right, so we know what sin A is, so let's just write down what cos A is. Remember, cos A is going to be equal to 2 over root 5. So just from the SOHCAHTOA work. And tan A is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, so that'll be 1 over 2. Right, so we'll be using these values somewhere in this in the calculations that we'll be doing. So let's go for sin 2a. So the expansion for that would be 2 sin a cos a. So let's substitute our values in. So I've got 2 for sin a, I know that it's 1 over root 5. For cos a, I've got 2 over root 5. So remember, when you're multiplying across, the 2 here is like it's 2 over 1. So we're just multiplying the top by 2. So 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 on the top. Root 5 times root 5 will just give me 5. So that will be 4 over 5. Let's go for the cosine, and I'll just use the equation that will be 1 minus 2 sine squared a. Substitute the values in, and I'll square it. So sin a is, let's see, 1 over root 5. And from there, what we'll do is we'll square it out first of all. So 2 times that squared would be top squared, and then the bottom squared, so that would be 1. And that would be 5 on the bottom. That's 1 minus 2 over 5. Remember, the 2 we're just multiplying across the top, and that should give me 3 over 5 for my answer there. Simplified fraction. Right, for part C, the extension piece of work, we've got cosine 2a plus sin a equals 3 plus root 5 all over 5. So let's work that one through and see how we get that. Right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute in the cosine 2a, which will be this value here. So from here I'm going to go for 3 over 5, and it's going to be plus, and sine a, which is 1 over root 5. Okay, and this here is the left hand side that I'm going to work out. So I'm going to work out the left hand side, and I'm going to try and make sure I can get it equaling to the right hand side that's here. Okay, so what I'll do there is trying to gather that together in one single fraction. So I'll be multiplying across the way like this. That'll give me 3 root 5. 5 times the 1, so that'll be plus 5, all over 5 root 5. So that's me got it as a single fraction, but it's still not in the form that I'm looking for. So one thing that I can see possibly here is that I could break 5 down to root 5 times root 5 and possibly take a common factor out. So let's have a look at that, see if I can do that. So that would be 3 root 5, that would be plus, and that's root 5 times root 5. That's just the same as 5 over 5 root 5. Now I've got root 5 on the top here and here, so I can take that out as a common factor. So root 5, and then in the bracket I would have 3 plus root 5, and that's starting to look more like the answer that I'm trying to get, and that's all going to be over 5 root 5. And what I can do is from the top and the bottom then, because I'm multiplying everything on the top by root 5, and I've got a root 5 that's on the bottom, I can divide top and bottom by root 5, which cancels these two to 1. So that leaves me with 3 plus root 5 on the top, and that's all divided by 5. So the left hand side equals the right hand side. And that's that complete. So let's see the marking for this this question here. So what we're going to go for is we're going to go for 1 mark for this line, 1 mark for the fraction, 1 mark for this part here, 1 mark for the simplified fraction, the answer to that part there. For this one here, we'll go for 1 mark for getting the left hand side substituted in. I'll go for 1 mark for doing a bit of fraction work, and that would be gathering the fraction together as a single fraction. And I'll go for 1 final mark for showing something like this here that takes you to the correct answer. Okay, so what we've got there is we've got 1 mark, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So I'm going to give marks out of 7 for this one here. So remember, you must show how you get to that answer there. That's the key to this type of question that we're doing. Right, let's go on to question number 5. So question 5. Again, what we're going to do is we're going to start by drawing down a right angle triangle. So what I've got is I've got cosine A is equal to 3 over root 10 this time. So let's get a wee triangle down at this side here. So there's my right angle triangle. I've got A down here, just start with the angle down here. Cosine is equal to the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so that would be a 3 here and a root 10 here. So to work out this side, the Pythagoras that I would do would be starting with root 10, squaring it, and because this is one of the shorter sides, I'll just subtract 3 squared from that. So that should give me, that'll give me 10. Root 10 times root 10 is 10, minus 9, and that should give me square root of 1, which equals 1. Okay, so from there what I can say is that I already know the cosine A, so sine A is going to be equal to opposite over hypotenuse, which will be 1 over root 10, and tan A, if I need that when I work it out, which I will do in that part there, and tan is going to be 1 over 3. So that's me got some of the bits of information that I may need to work out this question. Right, let's go for it. Sine A, well, I've already done that, so I'll just put my working up here. So sine A is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse. Okay, so that was just 1 over root 10. Right, so sine 2A, so just looking at the formula sheet, that would be 2 sine A cos A. I've already worked out what sine A is, so I've got 2 times 1 over root 10, and cos A was given to me in the start of the question. So it's that there. Multiply it across the way would give me 6 over 10, simplified down to 3 over 5. Right, so now for the extension piece of work that we're going to do. So we've got cosine 2a minus tan a equals 7 over 15. So let's see how we go about solving that one. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the left hand side. So the left hand side, I know that that's cosine 2a. So cosine 2a, I've not got that anywhere, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to work that out. So what I'll do is down here, I'll work out cosine 2a, and the way I'm going to work that out will be using 1 minus 2 sine squared a. So that's 1 minus 2 times sine a was 1 over root 10. I'm going to square that, so that's going to be giving me 1 minus 2 times 1 over 10, which gives me 1 minus 2 over 10, which equals 8 over 10, which gives me 4 over 5. So all I'm doing there is working out the cosine 2a part that's going to go in here. So I'm going to take that and put it in up at the top here. So that's going to give me 4 over 5. And I'm going to subtract tan a, which I already worked out down here, which was 1 over 3. And then I'm going to do some fraction work to work that out. So first of all, putting it into a single fraction. So multiplying across the way can be a kiss and a smile, that some people call it. So making the denominators the same, 4 times 3 would give me 12, minus 5 all over 15. That should give me 7 over 15. And that therefore equals the right hand side. That's that question complete. Right then, let's see for some of the marks on this one. Right, what we've got is, the first thing that we're going to go for is getting the answer for sine a. Next part we'll go for substituting in, let's see, for sine 2a, we'll go for substituting and getting the values in. And the simplified fraction must be simplified. What we'll do for part C, we'll get a mark for the substituting in the values and another mark for getting this fraction here. Following on from that, a mark for putting the fractions or substituting the whole fractions in for the left hand side, and finally getting the final answer equaling the right hand side that's there. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've got 7 marks for this question here. Okay, the final one, we've got question 6. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the same type of work again. Right, so I'm going to draw down a right angled triangle, and it's tan A that we have this time. So right angled triangle. A down here, so tan is equal to the opposite over the adjacent, so that's 1 here and I've got root 15 here. Doing the Pythagoras work for this side, what I'll do is that's the longest side, so I'm going to add these squared together, take the square root of them. So square root of 15 squared plus 1 squared, that should give me the square root of 15 plus 1, square root of 16 gives me 4. So this side here is going to be equal to 4. Right, I know what tan is, so let me just work out what sine is. So sine A is equal to the opposite over the hypotenuse, 1 over 4. Cosine A is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is root 15 all over 4. Right, so that's me got some bits of information I may need for the rest of it. So sine 2a is the question I'm going to answer first of all, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use the formula sheet again, so that's 2 sine a cos a. Substituting my values in, sine a 1 over 4, cos a root 15 over 4, and from there what we'll get is I've got 2 times 1 times root 15 gives me 2 root 15 all over 16 on the bottom. I'm going to simplify that fraction by dividing top and bottom by 2, so it'll give me root 15 over 8 as my final answer to that part. And that's it simplified as far as I can go. Right, so cosine 2a, so again I'm just going to use the 1 minus 2 sine squared A. So sine A is a quarter, so it'll be 1 minus 2 times a quarter squared. And then when I multiply, when I square that out there, I've got 1 minus 2, that's going to be 1 over 16, square the top, square the bottom. Multiply by the 2, so it'll be 1 minus 2 over 16. I could just simplify that down, so it'll be 1 minus, and that's going to be 1 over 8. So that should give me an answer there of 7 over 8 as the simplified fraction. Right, going on to the extension piece that we've got over here. We've to show that sine 2a plus tan a is equal to 23 all over 8 root 15. Okay, so let's go for the left hand side here. Sine 2a we've already worked out, so that's root 15 all over 8. I'm going to add on to that tan a, which is given in the question here, which is 1 over root 15. What we'll then do is gather this together as a single fraction, so just multiply across that way, multiply that way, and multiply here to get the denominators the same. So I've got root 15 on the top, times root 15, plus 8 times 1 just gives me 8, all over 8 root 15. So that's quite good. So I've got 8 root 15 on the bottom, so that's quite good already. So I'm just needing to get the 23 on the top. Root 15 times root 15 just gives me an answer of 15. And gathering that together, that would give me 15 and 8 would give me the 23. So what I've got is the same as the right hand side, so that equals the right hand side, and that's me completed this question. Right, finally let's just look at the marks for this one. And what we're going to go for is, we'll go for firstly getting the substitution here and getting this mark here. Okay, we'll substitute in there, just using the formula sheet, remember, and getting our simplified fraction to there. So that's 4 marks already. What we'll get is 1 mark for substituting these values into the left hand side of that equation. I'll look for 1 mark for either this part or this part, so I'll just go for this one here. And finally, 1 mark for getting the right hand side there correct. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 marks. So that's out of 7. So that's 4 questions that we've done there on trig. Remember just to make sure you look at the formula list, the formula sheet that you've got, and also that you start by drawing down the right angled triangles, because they're always going to help you with this type of work. So hopefully this has helped you out with questions 3, 4, 5 and 6.